Well, as you should be. Congratulations on prom dates. It's really, really fun. And I would love to go to you first, Julia, and just to ask you about this kind of pretense of the whole film of really putting friendship above romantic love, at least in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I was so drawn to this project and this script, so brilliantly written and so authentic and tender, and tells such a beautiful story about friendship and growing into yourself. And I feel like it, I feel like my personal high school experience was really made special by like my like best girlfriends. And so I love that we get to tell this story of these two best friends that really have each other's back. I think it's really special.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And then Terry, I have now seen you in a few things recently, and it feels like you're always playing the cool girl.
Yeah, yeah,
How did you get stereotyped?
it's an honor.
Yeah, I mean, would you talk a little bit about getting to play that cool vibe and just like the really like put together queer person in like every show that you're in?
Yes, it is. I'm so honored that this is how, insofar the industry has seen me to a certain extent. Obviously, I'm excited to expand on that as well. But I think it is really cool because I've said this earlier. Like a lot of the characters I play, they're kind of just like like a sliver of who I obviously really am, and it's more like I'm expanding on this one trait, which is like, yeah, being chill and like cool. But in real life, I'm very loud, very like chaotic and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's really nice to tap in to that like calm, chill energy for all these characters. And yeah, and especially, I know my place in these projects, and I think that sometimes these characters are in to propel the storyline, and I think that is what Angie does, and I'm very happy because this story needs to be told because it is so funny and feel good.
Yeah, well, and you're also playing like a really just great queer character whenever and I don't mean to say that you're always the same, but you do get to play this like really cool, calm queer character, which is,
Yeah,
also great.
yeah.
So thank you for that.
Oh, of course.
And uh, Julia, would you talk a little bit about so Hannah, your character, this is a little bit of a coming out story, which there's some pushback against coming out stories, but there's still necessary. It's still something every queer person has to do, and it's done in a kind of fun, kind of light way. Would you talk a little bit about that piece of it?
Yeah, I think it was, like you said, written in such a fun and lighthearted way, and shows a really, positive representation of this, this queer person, this newfound queer person, and the people around her. And I was saying earlier, like I was so lucky to grow up in an environment where that was always celebrated, and so it's really cool that like I get to tell stories too that like reflect the world that I was lucky to grow up in, and the world that I want to see around me. And yeah, I love that queer storylines can be positive and lighthearted and fun, as well as deep and meaningful. So that was really exciting to portray.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to go a little bit back to you with kind of a follow-up. Would you talk a little bit about Hannah, though, masking with this boyfriend and how that kind of affects him?
Yeah, I think ultimately Hannah has found a real friendship and safe place with Greg. I think he's such a he takes really good care of her and makes her feel really safe. And unfortunately, Hannah's coming out is hard for him in a way because he has so much love for her, but he learns that love can still remain and just take on a different meaning. And he's also so immediately supportive as well, when they finally get to talk about it. So I really love that he is like, no, of course I would have always encouraged you and cheered you on had I known. It was just the fact that you kept it from me and pretended to be in a relationship. So I think that was definitely not a great thing on Hannah's part, but he definitely takes it really well, and he's such a feel good friend, that she wants to keep him in her life, just in a different way.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And then Terry, would you talk a little bit about, of course, this is called Prom Dates. It revolves around one of the biggest markers of high school. And there's also, there's that like house party, which is another big marker of, the high school experience, at least as we see through film. Uh, would you talk a little bit about how the movie demystifies prom? Because it's not always the greatest thing for everyone, especially for some queer people back in the day, especially.
Yeah, wow, great question. I do think that historically and traditionally it's like prom, like dress up in this way and you have to dress like this and the girls dress like this and the boys dress like whatever, and there's a prom queen that's very this and that. And I understand where all those traditions come from, but I think it's fun because yeah, like the times have changed. It's a lot more encouraging of like expression and also like authenticity. And sometimes some people's authentic self maybe not even care about prom that much. Like I think it does demystify it in that it doesn't make it seem like this is what your entire life is like. This is not the zenith of your life. Like it's not the pinnacle. You're not going to peak here. It's just like a party to kind of celebrate with your friends. And I think it's really about the journey. It
Mhm.
sounds, but it's about the journey getting to prom rather than it is about the night itself. It's like what you and your friends go through to get there, or to get the dress, or to get the
Mhm.
date, and stuff like that. But it's not so much about the actual like I think night necessarily. It's about the connections you have
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you. And uh, Julia, would you talk about getting to play this Hannah, she's a queer character who is flawed. And, for so long, it was like if we saw queer characters on screen, they had to be perfect. They had to behave just the right way. And, she's a good person, but she has her moments, her trip ups. And would you talk about the getting to play that rounded character?
Yeah, I mean, I think all high schoolers or most high schoolers struggle with like, behavioral issues and being and not knowing how to regulate themselves in certain situations. And I definitely still struggle with that and like definitely struggle with that in high school as well. And so I think that in the moments where Hannah is, maybe making not the greatest choice or the greatest path at communication with the people that she loves, yeah, it is a flaw in her, but it also makes her so human. So I really love that even though this movie is so comedic and lighthearted and fun, it's also like very real in a lot of moments. And yeah, I just think it's a really great accurate representation of like how high schoolers behave. Because yeah, I definitely was not cookie cutter or perfect in high school in any way, shape, or form. So I love that I get to portray, that sort of, rough around the edges kind of girl who's still figuring herself out.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And Terry, would you talk a bit about this is kind of an overarching piece of this. Also, I should say it's very, very funny. I tend to ask serious questions, but the movie's really funny. But there's this overarching theme to it, that is also so important, which is of family, chosen and
Mm-hmm.
chosen family and found family. And would you touch on that, please?
Yeah, I think it's evident throughout the entire process. I mean, obviously you just see that with Juge and at like one of the first scenes, like them as kids, just growing up together and seeing that they're still best friends many years later. I think in the queer community, chosen family is so huge, and I think it's nice because in this movie it doesn't seem so like traumatic. It's not like the queerness and the coming out isn't like this very negative thing. It's kind of just like casual, which I love. But yeah, no one can deny that like in the queer community, chosen family is so big, and I hope that people watching this who maybe don't have the same like experience that perhaps Hannah has in this, they remember that like your friends and your community like very much are your chosen family. They are your family just as much as maybe your blood family and stuff. And like the family is really about the people. Your family is really just the people who support you like wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I think Greg is family to Hannah, and
Right. Right.
yeah, so it's a nice reminder of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Julia, I have to ask, I asked DJ about this, but some of these references, the Rachel Weisz crush, would you
Yeah, relatable.
Of course.
totally, I mean, after Disobedience and the Favorite, it was just like, all over Twitter, it was like step on my neck. So I
Yeah. No, like literally, yeah. Yes.
Would you touch
That's
on
so
some of
funny.
the pop culture references that you get to make? Because they
Oh,
resonate with queer women.
yeah. Oh my God, there's so many.
There's Sarah Paulson
Um,
as well.
yeah, oh God, Sarah Paulson, you know, just hitting all of the and there's so many references to Twilight and like in Hannah's locker, there's like a little like bulletin letter board thing that says like Team Bella.
Mhm.
So that's also like, yeah, I think there's so many great references and it's just a true you know, display of DJ's sort of incredible, funny, smart brain and probably all the things that like, you know, they loved in high school that they wanted to incorporate in this movie too. So yeah, all those Easter eggs are super fun.